Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. It's October 8th, and today we're going to talk about alliums. We're going to talk a little bit about onions, and about that time we're going to go ahead and get our garlic ready to put in the ground. Being we're going to talk about onions, we might as well look at these onions that we put in the planted the bulbs. And if you follow along, you'll know all about these. And they are really starting to get some size. They're starting to get nice and full. They'll like this cool weather. They should grow big and hardy. But what we're going to do first is it's time again to give our ones that we're growing from seed a haircut. Okay, we're out here fixing to cut these onions, and what I want to talk about first, I use an injector and I use fish emulsion. It's nitrogen. It's got a few of your P and K in there too, but it's mostly nitrogen. And you get one of these little siphon nozzles. Now I just put it on the end of my wand, leave it wide open. And what I'll do is when I turn it on, you'll see the fertilizer come up in the top. But what I'm going to do first is fertilize these, because you don't want to cut them off and then fertilize them, because that fertilizer will get down inside that into that onion, and it can cause you problems. So what I'll do first is I fertilize it, then I take and I'll water it just a little bit, enough to rinse it off the leaves, and then we'll trim it. But this is excellent way to fertilize a lot of your greens and stuff like that like a lot of nitrogen. This is really good in your transplants. So what we're going to do, I'll just turn this on, and now it's coming out the hose, and I'll just water these down real good. Now I'll just change this over and I'll put the other nozzle back on. Okay, now I just took this out of the bottle, so I did and run the rest of the fertilizer out. Now I'll just make sure I kind of wash these tops off, and then we'll get them in the barber's chair, give them a haircut. Okay, they'd had a haircut about 2 weeks ago. They were considerably smaller. Now you can see they're a lot bigger, but it's not a complicated process. Now these are, right now they're almost 6 weeks old. So what we're going to do, we're just going to cut the top of this off. Now this second haircut, you can, being you don't have seeds or anything on here, you can take and save these, and they'd be good in the salad. I hadn't been prepared for that, so I'm just going to trim these because I need to get this done. But we just cut them back to about 2.5 inches or 2 inches, something like that. And what this is going to do is, and if you've seen them before, you'd know, but they were all pretty much small like this, and that caused them to thicken up and make a sturdier plant. Now we could go ahead and plant these this size. This is an excellent size to go ahead and plant, but we're not really ready, and the bigger they are, it makes it a little bit easier as far as doing the planting on there. Now I just use regular scissors. I like these because they've got a little slack in them from age, from being used. A lot of scissors, when they're good and tight, they seem to start gumming up after a while whenever you start trimming on these plants. But all I'm going to do, as you can see, is go down here, and I'll try to put the initial video where we planted these. But the main reason I plant my own is there's varieties that I can't get locally. You want to make sure that they are for your area. Down here we plant short day onions, and you might think you can get a big onion off of some of those varieties, that are long day onions, but it doesn't work that way. If you plant a long day onion in a area where you don't get a long day of sunlight, what ends up happening is that uh, that onion's not going to get very big at all. You're just going to have a small one. So you defeat your purpose right off the bat. But some of these are doing better than others. Now, I do have them kind of in a shaded place underneath my banana trees there, which what I'll do is over this next week, I'll start moving them to the edge of my greenhouse so they get more daylight. As far as stronger sunlight, should I say. But I'm just going to continue just to cut these. It's not complicated. For myself, I really enjoy the onions that I plant. Now, like I say in the earlier video, I've heard people complain and say, "Well, I don't grow my own because I don't like those long roots." Well, these, and if you don't get all the roots in the ground, well, that's all right too. But these will outgrow the store-bought onions if you plant them this size. The same with the store-bought onions, because they have roots already. You don't have to wait for them to grow roots. They'll start growing right off. It's not a lot of shock. They just go straight from here, water them in good, and they go straight into the soil, and they're good and happy. But I'm going to continue to do this, and we'll come back and look when we get all these finished. There's something to do with cutting these, trimming these back. That's, I guess, just like any plant. Normally when you start pruning it, it tends to want to be more vigorous and grow. I don't know if it's something that it produces when it gets injured or something like that, but regardless, the ones that don't get trimmed off when I do the first trimming, if they're laying down or something, they don't seem to catch up with the others. They seem to stay behind, and that's something to consider whenever you're trimming all these up. Make sure you try to get most all of them. And another thing you can see, even though my seeds were old, they were last year's seeds, I did get fair germination, but I did put quite a few seeds in the each one of these cells. I didn't plant this weed, so you can see just how easy it is for weeds to come and get in your garden. But these should be ready next week. I might give them a couple of weeks before I put them in the ground. Give them a good chance to recover from this. Don't ever trim these right before you put them in the ground. You'll end up with a lot of loss. I did that last year. I figured it'd make it easier for planting, get some of the top off them, and it did make it easier for planting, but it didn't do anything for the plant. In fact, like I say, it stressed it, and along with the stress of putting it in the new spot, it was just a little too much for it. Okay, this tray has got leek on this end, and you see how much smaller these leek are. Occasionally you get one that just decides to go crazy, but most of them are kind of small, and leek does grow slower. Now these have an awful lot of seeds. Now remember, these were seeds that I had saved from 2021, so they're a couple years old, but they did get good germination off of them. And I'm going to try to cut them. Now some of these probably weren't up near as much when I did the last haircut too, which would affect them. And you can do the same way with these. I can see that some of these are newer germinated because they still have the little seed on the top. But usually, most of the time, you'll have a lot of them that'll, when the seed comes up or when it raises up out of the soil, the seed kind of stays there. And two, I want to say, kind of be gentle with them because it's easy to, a lot of times, especially when you got a lot in a cell, that when you go to start cutting them, you'll accidentally pull one up because they don't have a lot of roots. They have roots, but they don't. It's not like they're competing for area, I guess, and their roots aren't quite as developed. So it's easy to, on some of the smaller ones, if you get too rough when you're doing this process, that you'll pull some up. But just realize that's going to happen. And there you go. That's all it is to it. Now there's a lot of onions there, as you can see, and I always get in trouble because say, why do you plant so many onions? In fact, last year we had a whole lot of onions left. We just gave them away. But anyway, that's the process. This is the second time they had their haircut. Won't be long. They'll go in the ground, and we'll update you when that happens. Now we're going to go take a look at getting our garlic ready because we're fixing to, not today, but here in the next week or so, we're going to put it in the ground, and while we got time, we'll prepare it. Now I have 3 different kinds of garlic. I have this is my garlic my elephant garlic that I saved for planting this year, and then I have 2 other varieties of garlic. Now, when it comes to garlic, what you're going to want to do is just break these cloves apart. You don't want to strip any of this outside off. It's not necessary. I'm not going to say it's not going to grow, but it's not necessary. And we'll just keep doing this until we separate all these cloves. Now, when you have a garlic variety like this one, sometimes the cloves in the interior, because it has 2 rows, sometimes these cloves in the interior are really small. I plant them, but if you're limited space, you want to plant as big a cloves as you can from your garlic, because they're going to do best. But this is all it is to it. Getting it ready. And I'll go through the rest of this and do it up. Now I'm going to put these in separate containers. This one here is a more of a little bit purple to it. That's usually most of your good spicy garlics will do that way. But I'm not going to say all of them. But anyway, that's all it is to preparing your garlic, and we'll be planting this probably in the next couple of weeks, and we'll do an update video then. But I hope that trimming those onions helps you out. Now, one thing I'm going to say, I use Fish Emulsion for nitrogen fertilizer, but it has an odor. Now, there are some other types of liquid organic fertilizers that have a high nitrogen in them that are more odorless. So if you're going to grow these in the house, don't use Fish Emulsion. You won't be happy. You'll be moving them outside. But anyway, thanks for watching again. I hope you gained a little bit of knowledge, even if it's just a little. And of course, as always, if you're not subscribed and you want to see more, just hit that subscribe. Click the bell, select all, and of course, give it a big thumbs up and share this video. Enjoy that gardening experience all year round.